We decided to take a cooking class as a couple. My husband thought it'd be fun to invite his mom along. During the class, every time I picked an ingredient, she'd say, "Interesting choice." Then she asked the instructor, "Can we swap partners?" I think we'd move faster. I said, "Go ahead. I'll take the quiet stranger in the corner." It all started when my husband, Mark, suggested we take a couple's cooking class in Charleston, South Carolina. I was thrilled. Cooking had always been a passion of mine, and the idea of learning new techniques together sounded like the perfect bonding experience. But then, Mark dropped the bombshell. I thought it'd be fun to invite Mom along. My heart sank. His mother, Barbara, was the epitome of a meddling mother-in-law. She had a knack for making everything about herself and never missed an opportunity to belittle me. But Mark, ever the optimist, believed this would be a chance for us to bond. Reluctantly, I agreed. The cooking class was held in a charming culinary school downtown. The instructor, Chef Antonio, greeted us warmly and paired everyone up. Mark and I were naturally partners, and Barbara was paired with another attendee. As we began selecting ingredients for our dish, Barbara hovered nearby. Every time I picked something up, she'd comment, "Interesting choice." Her tone dripped with condescension. I tried to ignore her, focusing on the recipe. But then she approached Chef Antonio and said, "Can we swap partners?" I think we'd move faster. I looked at her, stunned. Before I could respond, I said, "Go ahead. I'll take the quiet stranger in the corner." The room fell silent. Barbara huffed and walked over to Mark, leaving me with a kind elderly gentleman named George. We exchanged smiles and got to work. As George and I prepared our dish, I noticed Barbara whispering to Mark, casting glances our way. I brushed it off, focusing on the task at hand. George was a delightful partner, sharing stories of his travels and offering cooking tips. When it was time to present our dishes, Chef Antonio tasted each one, offering feedback. He praised George and me for our creativity and flavor balance. Barbara's dish, however, was undercooked. Barbara's face turned red. She glared at me, as if blaming me for her failure. After the class, Mark and I returned home. Barbara had driven separately. As soon as we walked in, my phone buzzed with a message from her. "You embarrassed me today." That was uncalled for. I showed the message to Mark. He sighed. "She's just upset. Maybe you could apologize." I stared at him, disbelief washing over me. Apologize? For what? She asked to switch partners. He shrugged. "It's just easier that way." That night, I couldn't sleep. The injustice gnawed at me. I decided it was time to stand up for myself. I began documenting every instance of Barbara's passive-aggressive behavior. From the time she criticized my Thanksgiving dinner to the moment she rearranged our living room without asking. I compiled everything into a detailed journal. Then I started a blog, Tales from the Kitchen, Living with a Meddling Mother-in-Law. I changed names and locations to maintain anonymity. The blog gained traction, resonating with others who had similar experiences. Readers shared their stories, offering support and advice. The community grew, and I found solace in knowing I wasn't alone. One day, Barbara called, her voice icy. "I know about your little blog. How dare you air our family's dirty laundry?" I remained calm. "I haven't mentioned any names, but if the shoe fits." She hung up, furious. Mark confronted me later, upset. "Why are you doing this? It's causing tension in the family." I looked at him, resolute. "Because I won't be silenced anymore. I deserve respect." Over time, the blog continued to grow. I received messages from people worldwide, thanking me for sharing my story. Barbara eventually stopped speaking to me, which, surprisingly, brought peace to our lives. Mark began to see the toll his mother's behavior had taken on me. He apologized, acknowledging his failure to support me. We attended counseling, working to rebuild our relationship. The experience taught me the importance of setting boundaries and standing up for oneself. Sometimes, the best revenge is living well and refusing to be a victim. Things settled for a few weeks after the confrontation. Barbara kept her distance, and honestly, it was nice. Mark and I were doing better, talking more, even laughing again. I thought maybe, just maybe, she had finally realized her behavior wasn't going to fly anymore. I was wrong. One night, we were watching a movie when Mark's phone buzzed. He looked at it, and his face froze. He got up and walked out onto the porch. I waited. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. When he finally came back in, his expression was off. "What's going on?" I asked. He hesitated. "It's Mom. She sent a screenshot from your blog. Someone figured it out and posted it in a local Facebook group. She says people are calling her names. She's threatening to sue." I sat up straight. Sue me? For what? I never used her name. I never posted any photos. She said it's defamation. She's really upset. I felt my stomach twist. She brought this on herself. He didn't say anything. 2 days later, I got a letter in the mail. An actual legal letter. Barbara had hired a lawyer, or at least, she claimed she did, and accused me of emotional distress and public character assassination. The letter was full of vague threats and legal jargon, but the message was clear: shut down the blog, or she'd take me to court. I called her bluff. I contacted a real attorney who told me the letter was nonsense. There was no case. Freedom of speech. No names. No identifiers. It was all opinion and experience. Still, the drama was enough to spark tension again in the house. Mark was caught in the middle, and I could see it weighing on him. To smooth things over, Mark suggested a dinner at our place, just the three of us. I was against it. Everything in me screamed this was a bad idea, but Mark looked tired, and I could tell he just wanted peace. So I agreed. I cooked all day. Lasagna, salad, garlic bread, her favorites. I even made homemade cheesecake. Barbara arrived right on time. She walked in with a fake smile and a bottle of wine she knew I couldn't drink because of my allergies. She did it on purpose. I knew it. She knew I knew it. Dinner started okay. Then, halfway through, she brought up the blog. I'm just saying, it's sad that some women need to hide behind keyboards to feel powerful. Mark put down his fork. Mom, please no, it's fine, I interrupted, setting my fork down. Better to hide behind a keyboard than hide who you are in front of your own son. Her face tightened. I raised him better than this. No, I said. You raised him to think that your way is the only way. Mark just sat there, eyes darting between us. Barbara stood up. You're tearing this family apart. I laughed, bitter. I didn't tear it apart. You've been slowly chipping away at it since the day I married your son. She grabbed her purse and stormed out. Mark didn't speak to me for the rest of the night. The next morning, he sat me down. She says she won't come around if you keep writing. I stared at him. Is that supposed to be a threat or a promise? He winced. Come on. Can't you just let it go? Let it go? After everything she had said? After trying to humiliate me in a class, manipulate our marriage, and now this fake legal nonsense? No, I said. I won't stop. He stood up and walked out of the room. A week later, I noticed something strange. I started getting anonymous comments on the blog. Nasty ones. Personal. They mentioned things I hadn't written. Things only someone close would know. Then someone tried to reset my blog password. Twice. I checked the IP logs. All signs pointed to a nearby city, where Barbara's sister lived. It hit me. Barbara was trying to sabotage the blog from the inside. Probably roped her sister in too. So I did what any blogger would do. I posted about it. Vaguely. No names. But I laid out the story, how someone tried to hack me, how the threats started. I let readers know I wouldn't back down. The post went viral. I got messages from people who'd been through the same. People offered support. Someone even helped me secure the site better. But the craziest part? One of Barbara's old friends messaged me anonymously. You don't know me, but I know her. And if you want to really shake her, check her old HOA records from her last neighborhood. Trust me, that was the moment I knew. This wasn't just about cooking anymore. It was about exposing the full story. The message from Barbara's old friend rattled around in my brain for days. Check her old HOA records. It sounded random, but the curiosity gnawed at me. I didn't want revenge, not exactly. I wanted the truth. I wanted validation. I wanted Mark to see the woman behind the perfect image she wore like a mask. So I did some digging. Barbara had lived in a fancy retirement community in Mount Pleasant before moving closer to us. I searched public records, forums, anything I could find. After 2 days of late-night scrolling, I struck gold. A post on a neighborhood Facebook page from 3 years ago, buried in a comment thread about board corruption, Barbara T. caused drama at every HOA meeting. She almost got the community fined because she refused to follow lawn maintenance rules and then tried to blame the landscapers. Classic. Another comment. She once reported her neighbor's daughter for using the community pool. Said she wasn't a full-time resident. The girl was 14. I screenshot everything. Then I found it, a PDF of old HOA minutes. Barbara had been removed from the board for behavior unbecoming of a board member and repeated violations of community policy. It wasn't criminal, but it painted a picture. When Mark got home that night, I showed him everything. At first, he brushed it off. That was years ago. But this is who she's always been. She doesn't just pick at me. She picks at everyone who doesn't do exactly what she wants. He didn't say anything, just scrolled through the screenshots. Then he stopped. I could see the shift in his face. I remember this, he said quietly. She was so angry when they made her move. She said they were out to get her. But she never told me why. That was the crack. He didn't admit I was right, but he didn't defend her either. A few days later, Barbara showed up at our house. No call, no knock. Just walked right in like she always used to before I changed the locks. Except this time, Mark was home. She walked into the kitchen where I was chopping vegetables, Mark sitting nearby. You think you're clever, she said. No hello. Digging into my past, parading it around like gossip. You're disgusting. Mark stood up. Mom, that's enough. She turned to him, shocked. Excuse me. I said that's enough. You're going to let her ruin this family? Mark glanced at me. You've been trying to do that for years. Her face turned white. She blinked like she'd been slapped. Then she did something I didn't expect. She sat down. Barbara sat at our table, folded her hands, and said, Fine. You want truth? You want the real me? Here it is. She told us about her own mother, cruel, controlling, distant. How she swore she'd never be like her. And then how, somehow, she had become her anyway. I controlled things because I thought if I didn't, everything would fall apart. I lost your father because of it. I lost friends. And now I'm losing my son. It was the first time I'd seen her cry. She didn't apologize. Not exactly. But she acknowledged it. And that was something. Just when I thought the chaos might finally slow down, I got an email from a woman named Annalise. She introduced herself as Mark's ex, the one before me. I had only heard about her once, in passing. Hey, the message read, I found your blog. I recognized the descriptions. I know Barbara. I went through the exact same thing, but worse. I didn't say anything back then because I thought I was alone. If you're interested, I've got stories. I sat there, stunned. Why was she reaching out now? What did she mean worse? I replied, yes. I want to hear everything. We met at a quiet cafe on the edge of Charleston. I wasn't sure what to expect. Annalise looked calm, well put together, someone who'd been through fire and survived it. Barbara destroyed me, she said, sipping her coffee. She started small. Comments about my cooking, my job, how I dressed. Then she got in Mark's head. Made him doubt me. Every fight we had, she was the root. She leaned in. I wasn't strong like you. I walked away. I left Mark, thinking it was my fault. It wasn't. I sat still, heart pounding. Why now? She smiled, but it wasn't warm. Because you're doing what I was too scared to do. And because people like her? They don't stop until someone stops them. She handed me a flash drive. Phone calls, voicemails, screenshots, everything. I saved it back then, thinking I'd use it. But I never had the nerve. I went through it all that night. Barbara's voice, sharp and mean on every voicemail. You'll never be good enough for my son. He doesn't need someone like you. He needs someone with class. If you don't leave him, I'll make sure you regret it. The texts were worse. I called my lawyer. Can I post this? Legally? As long as it's public record or voluntarily shared, yes. But be ready. Once it's out there, it's out there. I didn't sleep. The next morning, I wrote a blog post titled "The Voice Behind the Curtain." I didn't just post the audio. I posted everything with context. I made sure it was clear. This wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. For every woman who felt gaslit, every man who couldn't see through manipulation. For me. For Annalise. For Mark. It spread fast. Thousands of shares. Comments flooded in. People from Barbara's old neighborhoods. Former coworkers. Even people from our church. Mark called me from work. It's everywhere, he said. People are sending me links. And I listened. To all of it. There was a long pause. I'm sorry, he whispered. I should have stood up for you. Years ago. I let her control everything. I wanted peace more than I wanted to protect you. That was weak. Tears streamed down my face. I wasn't perfect either. I let it build up instead of fighting back early. I thought silence would keep the peace. I want to make it right, he said. Then help me finish this. Barbara showed up again, but not to our house. To the cafe where I met Annalise. I was sitting there, writing a follow-up post. She walked in and sat across from me. Her face was pale, angry, but underneath it, she looked lost. You ruined me, she hissed. Everyone I know has seen that blog. I can't go anywhere. I closed my laptop. You ruined yourself. I was trying to protect my son. From who? Me? Annalise? Or from not being able to control him anymore? She stared at me, mouth tight. You need help, I said. And if you don't get it, you'll die alone. She stood up. You'll regret this. I already did, I said. But not anymore. We moved 6 months later. Mark and I sold the house. Started fresh. New place, no spare key for Barbara. We got into marriage therapy. I kept writing, but I turned the blog into something bigger, a place for others to share their stories. Barbara? Last I heard, she moved in with her sister. The one who helped try to hack my site. Turns out they had a falling out too. That flash drive from Annalise? Turns out Barbara had done the same thing to a lot of people. She was cut out of nearly every circle she once ruled. Was I vengeful? Yes. Did I enjoy watching her fall? I'd be lying if I said no. But I didn't start this war. I just stopped pretending everything was fine. Mark and I rebuilt from ashes, and it wasn't easy. But we finally made space for something real. And Barbara? She taught me what happens when someone controls everything except their own truth. You can only push people so far before they push back. Sometimes with a frying pan. Sometimes with a blog. But always, eventually, with fire.